Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I have a first impressions that I really need to get to because it's been like a week since I opened this knife, but I've only carried it one time, so it's fair that I'm doing my first impressions. Just had a lot to get through lately. Anyways, this knife was sent to me by my buddy Jakeb Ginsberg, who also sent me the custom fixed blade that he made for me, which was really, really cool of him. But he sent this just for me to check out because I have never checked one out before, and he's a cool dude who was willing to loan it to me. So I will link to Jakeb down below. His Instagram is Jakeb Creates. He spells his name Jakeb. So I'll link to his Instagram and to his Etsy shop so you can check out his custom work there. But he's a really cool dude. I'm glad we've become friends. So this is the ZT 0460 or the 460 tie. So this knife came in a couple of variations. I don't think ZT still makes this knife. I could be wrong. But this is the titanium version, so it's titanium show scale, titanium lock side, and this one is in CPM 20CV. I don't know on the other variants whether they also use 20CV or whether they used S35VN or what. I'm not sure. But this one is in 20CV. It is a Sienkiewicz design, and it seems very Sienkiewicz design to me. Dmitry Sienkiewicz has a certain design language that I think shows through on most of his pieces, and this is no different. So I'm just going to be pretty brief and do a first impressions on this today, and then I'm going to make a point to carry it a few more times, to use it a little bit, and then I'll be doing my full review pretty soon. But first impressions, if I'm being totally honest, this is a knife I was never really interested in. I've liked ZT for a long time. I've owned several ZTs. One of my first, what I would consider premium knives was my ZT 0350, which my then girlfriend, now wife, gave to me back in 2011. I carried that knife for years, loved it, and I've had several more since. I've liked pretty much all of my ZTs. But I'm not generally very into Persian style blades and Persian style knives. They just don't resonate with me. It's not that I hate them, it's not that I used one and I had a bad experience with it. I just aesthetically have never been that drawn to upward swept blades. So this one I always passed over. It was never really something that I was even considered purchasing. I had handled one of these at a knife shop years ago and found that I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really give it a chance. I just kind of picked one up, flipped it, and then put it back down. So this is an interesting one for me because it's a knife that's comfort zone is the wrong term, but it's kind of out of my comfort zone. It's not something that I would purchase myself, and so I'm excited to be giving it a shot. Now, this one in the all titanium version is lighter than I was expecting it to be. Part of that, I think, is because these titanium scales are actually pretty slim. This knife came about kind of in the time where I think ZT was transitioning away from all the overbuilt tank-like tactical knives, and we're getting a little more into the EDC knife game. And this one fits that bill. It's relatively thin handle scale material. It's titanium, so it should still be absolutely plenty strong. There's no point to make this thick for no reason. It's got a blade stock that's thick, but not crazy thick, and then it's all done fairly minimalist compared to what ZTs were before this era of ZT, and I like that this knife it feels very Sienkiewicz. It feels like a lot of ZT knives feel more ZT than this to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And when I think of knife designers having companies make their designs or partnering with companies. So this is a ZT model. It's in their catalog. It's not like Sienkiewicz sold these knives and they just happen to be manufactured by ZT. But when you see a lot of the knives that people collaborate with a company on, like Spyderco collaborations, they feel very Spyderco. And it's like they get a certain percentage of the designer's actual knife into them, and the rest gets Spydercoized. And same thing with ZT. Although I guess, no, now that I think of it, ZT is kind of different in that way. Because the ZT 562 is very much Hinderer. It's an XM18. There's subtle changes compared to the actual knife model, but it really is it's like strikingly close to a 5.62, or to a ZT, sorry, to a Hinderer XM18. I think if Spyderco made an XM18, it would feel less like an XM18 than the ZT variant does. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of, I'm coming to this conclusion live with you here. But ZT's collaborations do feel more true to the designer and less like this doesn't feel at all like it could be like someone at Kershaw came up with this knife. It feels very Sienkiewicz. And I like that about it. I like that ZT lets the proper design and the intended design shine through. Now, I love Spyderco collaborations. I've owned plenty, and I like a lot of them. I'm not necessarily saying that that's always a bad thing, that Spyderco gets a lot of influence in what the final product is. But this is just a different type of collab with a designer. So I really like that they do that. Let's talk about this knife and kind of where I'm at with it so far, and then I'll leave more for my full review. But at the moment, I have found, after carrying this for one day, that A, it carries quite well. I would prefer, if you know me, you're not going to be surprised, to have a deep carry pocket clip on here. I think this would be a great host for a deep carry pocket clip. I don't know if there's an aftermarket one that goes on here. But I think that would be nice if it did have a deep carry clip. This clip is functional, it's fine. It's not like my favorite pocket clip ever, but there's no problems with it. And the knife carries really like slanted toward the back of your pocket, so it's very out of the way. Like the tip up here that you're coming past, there's nothing rough or anything, so reaching in, my primary shares a pocket with my wallet. Frankly, I carried this as a secondary, so applies less there, but I'll try it as a primary as well because it's big enough that it could be a primary for me. When I've tried just putting it in pocket and reaching in for my wallet past it, it's really easy to get by. It goes in pocket well. The flipper tab does stick out, but it sticks out curved in this way, so it's really, if you draw a line straight down, the flipper tab is inward of where your hand is going in the pocket. It's a nice design in that way. Ergonomically, I don't adore the ergos of this knife, but they're okay for me. I feel a little bit cramped the way that this curve kind of pulls these back fingers in, and then I've got this guard with the flipper tab here, so it just kind of feels like my hand, when I grip down on the knife, it's like pressing into that guard. It's not sharp or anything, it's not really problematic, but in a hammer grip, it feels like there's a little bit too much curve happening. In a saber grip, if I choke back a little bit and kind of let this section rest into my palm there, it feels much more what I imagine this knife is supposed to feel like. It's better in a saber grip than it is in a hammer grip. And with that blade shape, it feels like it's supposed to be a saber grip. I don't know. That's where I'm at with it so far. The weight is good. Like I said, it's nice thin titanium scales. This backspacer appears to just be some kind of plastic. Maybe it's aluminum that's coated or something. It feels more like plastic to me. I don't know. But it works. It's functional. It's not aggressive. I think it looks pretty good, actually. And yeah, the action being on bearings, I do have to be a little sensitive to not putting my fingers on the lock bar too hard, because that does kind of lock it up a little bit. But it's on bearings. It fires open nice and hard. Actually, this might be, no, it is on bearings. Thought for a second it was on washers. No, it's on bearings. Action on deployment is pretty good. On closure, it's kind of a thin, wispy little blade, so it's not exactly a drop shutter. Maybe if I loosened it up, it would be, but right now it locks up solid, so I wouldn't want to play with that. Yeah, I don't know. It feels good on deployment. It's okay on closing. It's certainly not on either front, on deployment or on closing the knife, wowing me, but it locks up solid. It deploys well. It's nice. So I guess that's where I'm at the moment. I'm going to keep this relatively short. It's probably not short at all with all the talking I did in the beginning, but my first impressions of the Sienkiewicz or the 460 tie are that I'm more curious about it now than I was before. Like I said, I passed over it every time I saw one for years. And now that I'm experiencing it, I'm liking it a little more than I thought I would. And ZTs are funny in that way for me. Usually when I try one that I've not really been paying attention to, I end up finding that it's a better knife than I let myself believe, thinking that I didn't really want one. I don't see myself at the end of this running out and buying one of these. I still don't think it's a knife that I'm going to feel like I need to have in my collection, but I think I'm starting to have a better appreciation for it, and we'll see where that leads. But those will be my first impressions. Thank you again to Jacob for loaning this to me. He will be linked down below, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.